Hello there, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in New Zealand, and I'm bringing you another Global Monthly Video Hop. So every month, myself and demonstrators from around the world do videos based on a certain theme, and then you can hop through and see lots of different projects made with that theme. This month's theme is simple stamping. So in the description below, I will have links to all the other videos from the demonstrators participating. So once you're done watching my video, please go down to the description, click on one of those links, and you can get lots of other ideas on how to do simple stamping. I will also list below any of the products that I've used. So if you wish to purchase them, you can just look at the codes in the description and talk to your Stampin' Up demonstrator. If you live in New Zealand and don't already have a Stampin' Up demonstrator, you can go to my website, michellekritchley.stampinup.net, and order from me or contact me through my website if you have any questions or want to come to classes to learn more about projects that I show in my videos. So, simple stamping means just simply using stamp, ink, and paper. Sometimes we refer to that as SIP, S-I-P, stamps, ink, and paper. So we got stamps, we got ink, and the paper just depends on what size card you want to use. So it can be a small piece of cardstock or a large piece, whatever size cards you use in the country that you're at. So I'm going to show you some samples first, and then we're going to do some projects. So for simple stamping, I did a few different projects using the Amazing Silhouettes, which is just an image stamp set. And then I used some sentiments from another stamp set. In this case, I used the Thank You from the Nature's Harvest stamp set. So to start off, I did a 3x3 inch card, simply stamped the butterfly using the Magenta Madness and the words. And that is it. Just ink, stamp, ink, and paper. And then for the other sample, I used the other image. This time I used Granny Apple Green, and again the same words. And then I did the larger tree in Soft Succulent. I used a thank you stamp from a different stamp set because that suited this one better. Now, those are lovely cards in different sizes. This is note card size, 3x3 note card size, and this one here, I believe, is the smaller of the Memory and More card sizes. So once you do that and get used to doing simple stamping, you might want to step it up, make it look a little bit different. So in the case of this card, I simply did the same thing, simply stamped it. This time I cut out the words, put it onto a colored card base, and added some ribbon. For this card here, I stamped it 3 different times. Again, cut out the words, added ribbon. And the pink card, I did the same thing, stamped it 3 times, stamping off, cut out the sentiment, and added ribbon. So you can see how you can change up your cards, starting with simple stamping and then moving a bit beyond that. Taking it a bit further for those that are avid crafters that might want to change it up. Again, I did the same image here, the 3 stamped images, but this time I cut one out, added some die cut images there, a die cut, and popped the words up and added a bit of bling. For that, I stamped the background lots of times with that image. Did one image that I cut out, and then I ran the background through a die cutting machine to give you some texture. Did the words on die cut those, again, ribbon and some bling. And then for the final one, to make it quite avid, I stamped it 3 times in the background and then used a completely different die set to cut out a different tree. But I stamped the green there with the same image to give it some texture and popped it up, added some bling. So there you can see where you can go from simple stamping to some stepped up cards and change it up, make it look completely different with the same stamp set. And another simple stamping example is using this stamp set, Nature's Harvest, and you have dies that you can get with it, the harvest dies that have different images of plants and flowers. So I simply use this stamp here, stamped the background several times in full strength and stamped off, and then blended a bit of color. This is the marvelous paper that you can get free with Celebration, and then those dies I just did in black. Added a couple little extra bits, again using those words popped up, die cut, and just did different colors. And so it's a very simple card. The only stamping you had was there and the words. The rest of it is just die cut. And you can make a lot of interesting cards that look essentially the same, but different because of the colors and the die cut you use on that. So for this stamp set, in that case, I only used the words and that. Now those stamp sets, I'll just show you one last one. This again is another simple stamped one where just using the black, the Memento, you simply stamp words and an image, and then you can just add bits to it to make it look a bit different. So these were all the what we call the red rubber stamp sets. So they're solid, they're not see-through, and as you can see, they're made out of red rubber. So today I'm going to show you how to use a photopolymer stamp set to do your stamping. So with the red rubber ones, you can't see through, so you just stamp and it just goes where you stamp and you can't see exactly the placement. But with the photopolymer, they are see-through stamps, and that way you can see what you're stamping and you can stamp on different layers. It's still simple stamping, but it gives you a different effect because you can layer it up. So today I'm going to show you how to use the note cards and envelopes. You can get a pack of note cards and envelopes. There's 20 note cards and matching envelopes in there. And I'm going to show you how to make 3 different cards using the Flowering Rain Boot set. So because the stamps are see-through, photopolymer stamps, you can use different colors to give you for the placement, and that way you still get simple stamping done, but it looks completely different because you're using different colors. So I'm going to show you how to do these 3 cards, and then at the end of the video I'm going to show you the dies that go with this set, the rain boot dies. So there's lots of different dies that go with the set. Some of them match up with the stamps. So I will show you how you can step these cards up using those dies. So simple stamping is the beginning to all creative activity when it comes to making cards. And then you can step things up by adding extra bits. So we're going to start with these. So I need 3 note cards. The note cards, they come pre-scored in the pack, and then they have matching envelopes, which is great. So you can get this pack all listed in the description below. So I want 3 of those, and I'm using the same colors in every card that I'm doing here. So I'll just fold those because they're pre-scored, and get my bone folder. And then I'll show you how simple it is to stamp with the photopolymer. And the benefit, as I said before, is that you can see through them, so you can do the placement. Hopefully I won't have any problems doing it on camera. So we'll start with the easiest one, which is the rain boots. And I'm going to use Pacific Point ink. Actually, I'm going to put the words on first. And I'll just do the words in black because I didn't bring my early espresso ink pad out. So I'll just do the words in black. So because of the size of the boot, and the other benefit with being see-through is you can also work on your placement, so you can look through there and see about where you need to place the stamp. But having done my sample already, I can look at that. give me an idea. I want to put the words up higher this time. So I'm just going to ink it up in black. Make sure you've got the fold in the correct side. And I'll just pop that straight down, nice pressure, and pull it up. So there's my words done. And I always like to cover my ink pads so I don't do something silly like stick my fingers in them. And then now I'm going to do the boots. Now the thing that I need to think about is the fact that the flowers go further off to the side of the boots here. So I don't want the boots too far to the left. I want them more to the right because when I stamp the next part. And when you're doing stamping with photopolymer, it doesn't necessarily matter which order you do it in, but if you want things to look like they're more in the front, then you would do those sections last. So what you do is you stamp the parts that you want to be in the background first, and then you move forward with your stamping. So I'm going to put this one like over here, and because I can see through it, I can see where the card is in relation to the stamp, so it helps as well. When you're doing the red rubber, it's not necessarily centered on the other side of where you're stamping, so you might stamp things off or maybe crooked. And I'm just cleaning the items off screen. And then now I'm going to do my stems in garden green. And this is where the photopolymer works quite well. Because I can see through that, then I can line it up to be inside the boot. So I'm going to try to line up the bottom of it with just that in front top part of the boot. You might not be able to see it. I'm going to open it up so it's flatter when I stamp it. And then I'm just going to try to, hopefully you can see this, try to line the bottom part. So I'm going to angle it slightly so I can try to line the bottom part up where I want it to be. And once the bottom part touches the paper, I just push down. Don't wobble it, just straight down. I just give a bit of pressure with my extra fingers because otherwise you might wobble it. There we go. That looks pretty good. And I do recommend, if you haven't used photopolymer before, stamp on scrap paper just to practice to learn how you're doing it. So now it looks like the flowers are coming out of the boot. And then the last part we want to do is our pretty flowers at the top. I'm going to use Poppy Parade for that. And this is one of those stamps. If you've seen my other video about cutting your stamps apart to get better use, this is one that would be a good candidate for that. And I'll show you some samples in a minute why I say that. So now here, when we stamp it, we want the top of the stems to be just at the bottom of the flower. So when you put it down, don't press too hard, and you might need to angle it to see where the edges go. Because like if I stamp it there, it's going to be too far above these stems. So I just need to angle it, and then before I press it down, I just look to make sure I've got a little bit of green coming through the bottom of each and every flower. Hopefully I did that right. Press down, up, yep, pretty close. Bit harder to do when you're on camera because I can't get as close as I normally would. So you can see maybe a little off there, but that's not that bad. So there you go. One card down. That was quite simple. Now, let's move on to the next card. This one here. Now, if you notice, I have fewer flowers on this card. So what I'm going to do, when I talked about cutting them apart, I would cut those pieces apart, but I want to show you another way to do it at the moment. So I don't want all the flowers stamped here. I only want partial stamping. So for this one, again, I'm going to start with the words at the top. So for these cards, I'm showing you almost all the words. There's only one set of words that I'm not using. So I'm not using the every storm that comes also ends. That could be something maybe put inside. So we're going to start with the words at the top. I'm going to go with my Pacific Point again. Okay, and just try to line it up. Other nice thing with the photopolymer is you can see straight through it and see if the ink's there. Where the red rubber, I always turn it over to have a look. So we'll just roughly there. Okay, that worked well. And then we're going to do the pot next, because remember I said you layer it up from what's in the furthest in the back, which would be the pot, then the leaves, and then the flowers. So with the pot, I'm going to use cinnamon cider. You can use another brown or reds, any color that you'd like. And I'm going to make it flat again, make it easier to do it. And roughly towards the bottom, because I have to remember about the height of the flowers coming up. So we could have done the pot first and then the words, and then we'd know better where the words go. That probably would have been a better way to do it. That's probably how I originally did it. But I can't remember how I originally did it. And then we want our leaves, so we bring in our garden green. Now, this is the tricky part. I only want part of the leaves because doing all the leaves, it wouldn't fit in the pot. So if you have a look through there, I'd have some leaves falling off the side of the pot. So there's a couple ways you could do that. You could cut your stamp apart. Being photopolymer, I could easily cut those two sections apart. You could mask it. So that means putting some tape over the part that you don't want to use. So I'll show you the masking technique now. And then for the next stamp I do, I'm going to have the same amount of flowers. And I'll show you the other technique that you can do when you get a bit more confident with your stamping. So with the masking technique, what I'm doing is I'm putting tape over the part of the stamp that I don't want to use. I don't have to do the whole thing because I'm not going to ink it all the way over. So I'm going to just put tape right there. So I only want this section. So now when I ink it up, I'm still going to try not to over ink the whole thing. But when I ink it up, any bit that went on that tape, I can now peel off, hopefully, and throw that away before I get ink on myself. So I peeled off that tape, and now I only have the part I want inked up. So that's no ink on that side. So now I'm going to try again to center that close to the top of the pot, maybe more to the center of the pot. And so I'm concentrating at the bottom of the pot as I do this. And there you go. So it's the same stamp, but I was able to use part of it. So that's masking technique. Now, a similar thing with the flowers, because the flowers I only want to have partial flowers. I don't want all the flowers. So I'm just going to clean this again, just make sure it's nice and clean. It's always a good idea to press it on paper as well to make sure, because once you use them a lot, they can get stained. Use a piece of tape to mask off the flowers I don't want. So it's these two flowers on that side. I only need to mask off the portion I don't want to get ink on. So I put tape just here, and I'm only going to ink this side. So any extra ink that goes over there, I'll be able to peel off. So let me get my Poppy Parade in again. And so I'm just, hopefully you can see this, I'm just going to ink up the main flowers there. Okay, and now I can peel off the part I don't want. There we go. As long as it's a low tack tape, that's a good method to use. You don't want to be doing that with a real sticky tape because you don't want residue left onto your flowers. So now I'm going to do what I did before just look at those stems and make sure they line up underneath the flowers best I can. Straight down. This time I think I missed the top flower. Yep. So this time I missed the top one, but it still looks pretty good. And there you go. Another simple stamped card. Now, so that just shows you another simple stamp down. Now that one I either didn't push hard enough or I didn't have enough ink. Okay, now let's move on to the last one. This one here with the watering can. So this one, I'll open it up. And for the watering can, I'm using gray granite. And these stamps, I just love them because they have different texture built into the actual stamp. So they look very realistic and you don't have to do any other work. You just simply stamp it and it looks fabulous. So that's the card we're copying. So we're going to do the watering can first. Give it a couple taps, make sure you get it. And also when you look at it, when it's inked up, it doesn't actually look inked up very well because of that shading, but don't worry, it is. And again, just practice on your paper if you're unsure. So this one, I'll start with the watering can towards the bottom because that way I'll know how much room I have to put the words at the top. And just straight down pressure and straight up. And doesn't that look fabulous? I love the look of that watering can. Look at that shading. That just looks so good. So with one stamp and ink, you can get such a fabulous look. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with the green, with the leaves. I only want a portion of those flowers. So this time I'm going to show you the other method, which is just inking up the part you want. Now this one's really good. This stamp is good for that because there is definitely a gap between those two sections of leaves. So if I ink it up right, I will only get the part I want. So using the edge of your stamp pad, so right to the edge, I'm just going to go and get ink on the leaves that I want. So this stamp does lend itself quite easily to that. So I've only inked that up without even using the tape. And I'm going to try again to get it right at the top. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Right at the top of the watering can. There we go. That was close enough. So that shows you another way to get more use out of your stamps. So there, I've only got some of those leaves. And that was this other method. So now I'm going to do the flowers the same way. Hopefully they'll work out well. Just checking that I did get all the ink off of it before I stamp it up. So I want these two flowers. I don't want those two flowers. There's not a big gap there, so wish me luck. So I'm going to ink that up. Hopefully you can see this. Just up to that edge. Kind of hard on the camera because I can't get straight over it. And this is where I might not get enough ink on the stamp, but we'll see. Okay, so looking at that, looks like I did it. It looks like I've only inked up the part I want. It does look like I've missed a bit on this end though. Okay, hopefully I've got enough ink on there and we'll find out. So again, trying to line up these stems. Ooh, that one I got spot on. Yay. So there we go. And I just love the shading. So that one I've got different shading than the one I did before. So it just depends on how it inks up. So there we go. We got those 5 little flowers. And now we'll put the words. Rain or shine, I'm here for you. And because I've got the whole thing there, I can just guesstimate where about to put the words. And there you go. Another simple stamped card with 4 different colors. So now I'm going to show you. There you go. So you've got these lovely cards, all simply stamped with the same stamp set, just using 4 different colors. And now I'm going to show you how you can actually step up those cards if you want. Because this stamp set, you can get matching dies for the flowering rain boots. You can step it up by die cutting the images. So like I could die cut the boots and have them popped up and then the flowers look like they're behind, which isn't a very good idea. But you can die cut the leaves and the flowers, and so we could stick those on there and pop those on, and then maybe put dimensionals on there, and then so see how it steps up a bit more. If you're having difficulty with lining up where it sits there, having the dies is a great idea, because then you can just cover up any mistakes you have by simply popping the die on there, and maybe some dimensionals to pop it up to give it some height. So you can step that up like that. You could add some bling to there. If you put that together, you can snip off the sections like I did how I stamped the other one. And so now I've done that here. And I even cut apart these 2 flowers and moved it over so it looks like the flower is above the ones behind, where it normally comes like this. So I snipped apart there and I snipped apart there to give this effect. So now we can put that on our pot here if we want, or we can even put it in on top of our watering can if we'd like. So you can step it up that way. I could have it here with our pot and then have the extra little one like it's, you know, growing out of the ground, and add a little green at the bottom, and I could have it stepped up like that. Add a bit of bling. Other things you can do, add a piece of ribbon. So simply stamp it and add a piece of ribbon, and there you've stepped up your card slightly. The ribbon works quite well on the watering can as well, so just a little bit of ribbon there. You could add a bigger piece of ribbon on the bottom, and maybe under the boots, or if you find that you stamped it too high up, fill in some of the blank area with some ribbon. There's another stamp in this set, which is like the daisies, and I've tried stamping it over the stems. The trouble with that is when you stamp it over the stems are seen through because of the way it stamps. But if I die cut it, I can just place it over the stems. So I could just change that up and have daisies if somebody likes daisies as opposed to those flowers. You could have this cut out like that and put it up that way. Have the 2 there and just put your daisies on there and change it up having daisies instead. The daisies will work going over the pot. I could have 2 different sets of flowers on that one. So start out with your simple stamping, and once you're happy with that, you can make some lovely cards quick and easy just with simple stamping. But if you want to challenge yourself, then step it up a bit by doing some die cutting or using only partial bits of your stamps. So hopefully you enjoyed that simple stamping demonstration. Just pop these here to hold those down. And give me a thumbs up if you did. And don't forget to look at the description so you can hop over to the other demonstrators videos to see more on the simple stamping techniques that they've come up with, and see what stamp sets they've used to show you how to get started, or just to do something quick and easy. If you're already very avid with your stamping, it's always great to go back to simple stamping to make some quick and lovely easy cards. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye.